Please give it up for Shlomit, everybody. Give it up.
It's been great studying with Ian and Paul, or as I like to call him, Calvin and the Cowardly Lion. When you talk to yourself, do you say I or you? I saw a bumper sticker, excuse me a second. I'm a little OCD around the house. I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said, "Hipsters are what happens when you tell all children they're special." I was not special as a child. I was difficult. I didn't sit still, I was argumentative. By 6th grade, the school system had kind of had enough of me, so my mother was given a choice. She could medicate me or find another venue. So this was Massachusetts, and Mom knew how to work the system, and she got the Commonwealth to pay for school for me, and I went to a very nice farm. I'm not making this up. That comes later. I went to this really nice farm where it was full of kids who didn't know how to behave, and we'd have these weekly shrink sessions where we'd figure out how our brains worked. And eventually, after about a year and a half, I decided I was ready to go back into the general population. And so I went back to public school halfway through 9th grade, and I get to school, and everybody's walking around going, "Oh my God, I'm so fucking depressed. I gotta get high." And it was great because Mom's plan had worked. I did not have to take drugs, and I fit in perfectly. I was normal now. They all took drugs so that I could be normal. And those were my people, and I made friends with them. I was like a straight freak. We called ourselves freaks in those days. And we were political, so we would, sit around like playing folk songs and going to Boston Common to protest and pray for peace and stuff like that. And we got political in the school, and we figured out how to get our parents to sign smoking permits so we could smoke cigarettes on campus. Because we loved each other so damn much. And then, our pièce de résistance, kind of a cap piece of my high school career, was that we got rid of the dress code. A bunch of us girls figured out a way to storm the blockades and make it possible for boys to wear torn up blue jeans and girls to wear slacks. So, after high school I went to college. We don't have to talk about that right now. It's another whole set of history. That was for college number 1. I got to explain that because I'm now in college number 2, and we'll talk about that later. But now I'm old. I'm 63 years old. And I don't want anyone to say, "Oh, no, that's not old." Because it is, right?
Right.
0 to 30. So you know what I'm talking about, right? 0 to 30 is young. There's a few youngsters here. 30 to 60 is middle-aged. And 60, I'm in the last third of this thing, and I'm actually not unhappy about that. Because we are a crazy fucking species. We are just totally into like our own comfort and our own bliss, and we're making a trash pit out of our home planet. I think we can all agree on that. And I don't want people telling me that it's okay. I heard this yesterday on TV. I don't know where I was. Somebody had a television on, and there was a show called Meredith, and it's these women sitting around, kind of jazzing about something. And what they were talking about is that within a year, there's going to be a medical treatment we can have, okay, so that it's an anti-aging treatment. We live into 120, and I'm like, why on earth, after 60 years of watching this freak show, would I want to buy any more time? Seriously, oh my goodness. So my husband and I, now that we're getting old, we're thinking about how do we deal with that, There's going to come a time when my beautiful children, who are both here, my whole family's here, it's very moving, and also scary. There's going to come a time, and we've talked about this, when our beautiful children are going to conspire with Secretary of State Matthew Dunlap to take away our driver's licenses. And we're going to have to be where we can walk. So we moved to Rockland. It's a nice little coastal town, mid-coast. We can walk to everything. It's very high on the walkability scale. And the house is kind of big. So I've been, getting rid of stuff. As I alluded to earlier, I went back to school, and in order to do that, I kind of smushed all of our possessions, my husband and I, into 2 little rooms, and we rent the house out. And we're thinking, when I'm done with school, I want a tiny house. I really like this tiny house idea. But Rockland's land poor. There's just not a lot of buildable lots, and so I've been kind of scratching my head. I know what the house is, but where the heck am I going to put it? And then one day we went for a walk in the cemetery, and I figured it out. It's beautifully landscaped, right? Visitors are incredibly respectful. They bring flowers, right? And the neighbors are quiet. There's 1 or 2 faces look a little uncomfortable with the idea of thinking about living among the dead. But I want to tell you, first of all, there are already people starting to move into the cemeteries. You can go over to the Western Prom and you can see it happening. And the other thing we've got to pay attention to is we are mortal. We were built to fall apart. This is our purpose. We are here to become compost. So the other scientific fact I do not want to hear in my face is how we are going to pour huge amounts of money into going to Mars. Because you guys are a mess, and you cannot go to that party until you clean your room. It's great to bring your own fan club to a show. So before the kombucha wears off, I want to tell you guys. I'm a college student. 2 years ago, I went back to college to complete my bachelor's degree. I go to a wonderful school. I don't want to... All right, College of the Atlantic, yes! It's a great school. My fellow students treat me with wonderful kindness and goodness. And this summer, I have something called a Summer Democracy Fellowship, which is a paid internship. It just ended last week. So here we are in the last summer of democracy, and I'm working for a nonpartisan political nonprofit. It's a great organization, and the reason I'm telling you all this is to tell you that what I'm about to tell you doesn't reflect on that in any way. The story I'm about to tell you did not take place in the context of my internship, and has absolutely no bearing on the wonderful people at an organization I won't name. However, I have always been political, and so I get into these conversations. And a little while back, I met a couple of guys who work for a presidential campaign. And if you had asked me that morning when I woke up, if you'd said, so Shlomit, and every blue-blooded Democrat is asking this question of everybody they know as often as they can, so Shlomit, who are you going to vote for? And if you'd asked me that question that morning when I woke up, I would have said, I never make my final decision until I'm in the booth. Right now we've got 82 days. Who knows, in any election year, let alone this one, who knows what could happen in the next 82 days. I want all the information. I wait to vote. I don't vote absentee unless I absolutely have to. But if it was today, I would have said that morning, I'll vote for Hillary Clinton, okay? All right. But then I got up, I checked my email, I went to my most trusted news source, and all over Facebook there were these stories and pictures of Hillary Clinton with Henry Kissinger and Condoleezza Rice. Now, unlike most of the people in this room, I was alive when Henry Kissinger came out into the American presence, and I remember him very distinctly. I remember one thing he said that really struck me. He said, "Power is the ultimate aphrodisiac." So you kind of know what he's after here, right? He's like getting off on dropping bombs. Okay. Condoleezza Rice, in 2000, at a speech in Houston prior to becoming the National Security Advisor, said, I want to get this right, or as right as, Google could get it for me. We need a common enemy to unite us. Okay, so this was like in 2000, a year or more before we found a common enemy to unite us. So I said to these two guys, why is it that with 12 million newly engaged, active, passionate, and I don't use that word lightly, progressive voters, why is it that you're courting these guys? And the guy says to me, because it makes Donald Trump look like such an asshole, and such like just so, frivolous. I said, well, wait a minute. You're telling me you don't care whether you get my vote, you just want to make Donald Trump look like crap? I sat on that for a minute, I looked at him, I said, you're joking, right? He said, no. Our job is to make him into a common man. And you could see on his face that he was stuck in that aphrodisiac right down, It was just funny. It's true, it's not funny, and most of life isn't. And I apologize for anybody who this brings down. I especially apologize if Jason is going to come on after me and has to, put up with this bummer mood you're all in. However, this one's going to be...
It's not sexist like the last one.
Excuse me, audience members, please allow me to speak, since I have studied for 7 weeks. I'm a professional... So I've been thinking about the Middle East, to lighten things up a little bit. And I got the answer. I call it the Disney solution. And what it is you turn the whole Middle East into an amusement park. Not the whole Middle East, but anything anyone considers holy or sacred. And you give everyone a free pass, like the kind they give old age people to go to all the national parks in the United States. Everyone gets a pass, everyone gets in. And you let Disney run it. And they make money off the concessions. The reason I talk about Israel right now is because I have a personal connection to Israel, and it's relevant to what I'm talking about today, which is that my father was born in Germany in the 1930s, and when he was 12, his family booked it to Palestine, as it was then known, all over. Everyone was agreed on that because the British said so, so it was Palestine. And my dad went there. And then, meanwhile, my mother, who was born in New York, was going to school, and she was rolling her own lucky stripes to save money so that she could send money to people like my dad, who of course she hadn't met yet, so that they could buy land and blow up the King David Hotel. And after the Second World War, and by the way, both of my parents served. My father was in the RAF, my mother was in the U.S. Army. My father was also in the Palmach. That's a Jewish joke. So anyway, after the war, my mother goes to see, what have we done? Now there's a new state of Israel. She's very excited. She meets my dad and has 2 kids. So they were brought together by post-Holocaust Zionism. And I owe my life to Adolf Hitler. And all of this is just to accentuate the fact that things are not simple. Life is difficult. My husband used to wonder why I made things so complicated. And why I made things so difficult. And in fact, just today, I taught my youngest daughter the secret. You take a vitamin called B complex. Wow. Thank you, Joe, for that joke. I'm Shlomit. That's about it for me tonight.